Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted, as always, to be joined by Punch Out Boxing's Ra Hokum. Ra, looking back to what happened on Saturday night at Wembley Stadium between Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois, as well as looking forward to and asking what is next for Anthony Joshua. In the last few minutes, he's released a video basically saying came up short on Saturday night, but just kind of confirming that he won't be retiring from the sport. He will be fighting again. However, he did not confirm that he is going necessarily going after that Daniel Dubois rematch, although that will remain an option for him, I'm sure. I'll ask you, yeah, first question, Ra, as direct as always, what do you see happening next for Anthony Joshua?
Uh, that's interesting. In the past, he's shown that stubbornness in going for immediate rematches against most conventional advice. But the fact that he hasn't outright said that's what he's going for means maybe with a bit of wisdom, he's going to be a bit more strategic about his next move. So, which I think would be sensible. At this point, I think he's probably way out of the world title picture in terms of being actually capable of competing with those guys. Um, because of his enormous market appeal, he'll always get chances, I'm sure. Um, but yeah, he needs to be in with some winnable fights. And I think some of the other faded veterans from his generation, if you like, the generation that came up with him, those are the sort of guys he should be looking at. Um, so I would say the likes of Joe Joyce, Deontay Wilder, Dillian White, even guys like Ruiz and Miller. In fact, those names right there, I've said to some of our colleagues, you got a little veterans tournament right there where they're all of an appropriate level. They're all big names, interesting fights, but they've all declined somewhat, so they'd all be competitive fights. I think those are the sort of guys he should be looking to, rather than be trying to get back into the world title picture as soon as possible. And of course, the other possibility, if Fury loses conclusively to Usyk in December, uh, get that one on.
Yeah.
Battle of the British has-beens. It could, I guess, is the unkind way of putting it, but I still think there'd be bragging rights there for who was the best Brit of their
Yeah.
era.
Yeah, for sure. Look, there's lots. I think it's still exciting because there's still so many big fights for Joshua, so many exciting fights as well. But we'll see how, what you, in terms of what you think will happen. We've covered that, Robert. In terms of what you want to happen, Joshua now he's obviously lost to Ruiz, won the rematch, lost to Usyk, didn't win the rematch, but kind of did better in the rematch. Do you think he's going to go after Dubois? He has a rematch clause. That rematch can happen if he wants it to. He could be in a position where that rematch happens, and
Mhm.
then if he was to win, he's kind of in line for the winner of Fury Usyk 3. If you think about timing, we're still 3 months away from Fury Usyk. In terms of what you think is going to happen, do you think we're going to see that rematch happen next for Joshua?
Well, it's a hard one. Like I said, based on past form, yeah, he'll want to go straight in, back in with the rematch. But I mean, just listening to what he said in his video message that he's just put out, and just the vague responses Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn have given, I'd say it's 50-50. I'm leaning towards no, we won't see the immediate rematch with Dubois. I think this time he will be a bit more sensible. Maybe he's looking to target a vacant belt after inevitably some more belts do become available after December the 21st. What I'd like to see is, like I said, any of those sort of faded former
Mm.
rivals. That's what I'd like to see. If he can beat one or two of them conclusively, then maybe pick up either a vacant strap or whoever's picked up one of the belts. But by then, the belts might get scattered, but the guys
Mm.
picking them up might be killers. I mean, if you look at some of the people queuing up for their world title shots, so it doesn't necessarily mean in the post Fury Usyk era that there's necessarily going to be soft touches for him to target.
Yeah, no, look, I don't. I think one thing about the heavyweight division now is it's been kind of opened up a little bit because we've seen Joshua lose to someone that isn't Usyk. That isn't obviously that isn't Fury either because they've not fought. We saw him lose to someone who he was the favorite to beat and quite a strong favorite in some people's eyes. Can Joshua come back, Ra? Can he come back and be a force again? Um, Nearly 35. There were some people, obviously, who were saying, he's been badly knocked out. He should consider retirement. There were some people saying he's just fought badly on Saturday night, fought the wrong fight, especially against the fighter like Daniel Dubois. I know it's a tough question, but where do you sit on that in terms of can Joshua come back and um, possibly beat Dubois, possibly beat Tyson Fury, beat some of the guys that you mentioned? What are your thoughts on that?
I think he can be a player in the division. As for a force, uh, he's greatly diminished. Can he beat Dubois? I mean, he did box very poorly. I don't put too much stock into the whole thing around his punch resistance because I think Dubois would take out a lot of heavyweights if he hits them. But he made serious technical flaws which enabled Dubois to hit him hard and often. Can he correct those? I think he can. But again, in an immediate rematch, I wouldn't favour him. At 35, he's only going to be getting worse fight to fight now, whereas someone like Dubois at 27 is only going to get better. Um, I think he can beat some of the big names in the division, but again, like I said, probably because they're faded somewhat themselves. So I think he will because of his enormous market appeal. He could, if the powers that be want to maneuver him back into a position, they can do so with him. A lot of this will now come down to AJ's ego as to whether he'll accept taking that more strategic approach. Can he be a force? I think the illusion of him being a force could be recreated, but in real terms, I think that there's quite a few of the top 10 guys that I'd favour to beat him now.
Yeah, yeah, no. I think now you've got to ask the question over so many guys and whether they would beat Joshua. And I think it's a much more open discussion than it used to be. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what Joshua does next when he's back out in the ring, what the aim is, if the aim is just to possibly fight Tyson Fury, win or lose, and have that massive fight. If it is to try and win a world title again, who knows? But yeah, we will see what happens. It's going to be a very interesting next chapter in the career of Anthony Joshua. Ra, I'm sure we could go on, but we won't. There's other things to talk about. Ra, thank you very much for your time, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.